Good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Data here with Casey and Klemen. Happy Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. How are we doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Thriving.
Thriving indeed. I mean, as long as it freezes on that like super smiley Casey, like we'll be all right.
This is a lot of pressure for me to just like make faces that it would be good frozen.
Just smile for 40 minutes and you should be fine no matter when you freeze.
Oh man. Yeah, good
Yeah,
practice
you're
for
doing good.
good practice for tonight.
Yes, I wore my lead score queen shirt. Clement, I don't know if you know this. I'm hosting my first in-person hug in
Ooh,
2 hours. So I'm gonna leave once we're done with this. I'm gonna drive myself to a brewery, sit at a table with some orange balloons, and hope people show up.
have fun.
And get live feedback on things like unified business context, which is what we're talking about today. I'm sure that the conversations will be much more interesting than that at the hug. But I am interested in talking about this one after our runs at understanding unified customer view and what it takes to put one of those together, and then unified revenue view and what that takes, and putting those together. And mentioned last week working on something called the value creation protocol to help businesses understand, okay, now what, right? And the unified business context view, and maybe just strategy. I feel like it's really long, unified business context view. The concept of helping everybody understand what's next, like what's the next step, is like people are struggling, I think, with all this intelligence at their fingertips. So maybe there's a framework here that you can latch onto, but I think if you can ask help from AI for anything right now, it is bringing almost whatever you want right into your workflow. But that's really hard to ask for what you want if you don't understand the context of any given situation. Love to hear thoughts on how you might be seeing people struggle with that, or how you've seen them kind of change to support like all of this valuable data like coming in front of them.
I'll start with my understanding of what you mean by unified business context. It is a struggle and it is not a solved issue, to my understanding. And primarily where I see, even us internally with a team of 3, how do you keep a context of what we do shared, synced, up to date on a hourly basis? I was just asking earlier today, Nate, sharing him 3 proposals explaining the real value I believe Celestial brings to HubSpot users around AI, which I think is a good addition to what we had being written. But how now we bring that context into everything else we have. First in my local environment, and then shared across the team. Our CTO came up with a phrase, AI availability, like bioavailability of drugs. You can eat as much as you want of a drug, but if it's not absorbed by the body, there's no effect of it. Like, you can have everything you want as a context, but if that context is not available to AI and agents in a way they can digest and use it, nothing will happen. We're now building a quoting agent for a company where they started with throwing, probably 100 plus PDFs of something to an agent, hoping agent will figure out what is in there in PDFs. I mean, there's no way agent can work.
Mm-hmm.
PDF is not a format which is meant for AI availability. So I feel here and see that business context is a huge pain for many businesses at so many levels. And from small teams, of course, to enterprises, this only increases the complexity.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're in this this weird time where we all know how important context is right now, but we still haven't really developed all the mechanisms to collect and share it. And so we're kind of working towards that goal, and now with AI, we have a really good reason to need context in a way that I feel like everyone was just living kind of okay without it before.
Well, there's an understanding of like humans, like it's so innate to what we do, just like communicating with others and serving others. Like that's why I think it's been a challenge for SaaS to suggest that things can be automated in the way that they always have been, or in a way that like kind of mimics that level of value. If we just get your data up to date and we just keep track of emails, and like it just never could get there. And that's what turns people off of the systems when they're promised that, but then they still have to. It's not even they have to, they just know they have more context, than the system itself. So when you're presented with like, oh, that email came in, like if I have all the context with me, like why am I going to go into the system like to do it? If Klemen's sitting right next to me and I can just give Klemen context directly, why am I going to go around like into the system and then hand it off and send links? Like it's just, and since we've like, and all that stuff, all that value flow like gets missed like on the front lines by leadership teams and managers. So there's a huge disconnect. And I think we've talked about this before, like the unified customer view, the unified revenue view, they exist at some point, and it's usually before the board meeting and we all work together to bring all these slides together. Well, that's also for unified business context too, right? Like it's the only chance you have at making any customer data or revenue data make sense is if you have an understanding of what the market's doing and what changed last quarter for our business, like overall, like outside of the lens of specific customers or specific revenue flows. And that's where AI is going to struggle, just as much, if not more, if you ask it to do something outside of that. Even if you give it that deck right after the meeting, like maybe it hits for you as you're prepping for the meeting, but then right after, when there's news in the market or your customer, configuration changes, all of a sudden, like it's no longer up to date, right? And what we're seeing now, and I'm probably guilty of in some spaces, you just lean into it and you just try to overcome it with every conversation with AI. Meanwhile, the context gets further and further away, from the truth. Especially like Clement, you were talking about, your team of 3. me and Ryan Ginsburg with a team of two. Like, it's so hard to keep this unified, but it's possible if we have, the framework, and AI can help you put it together if you do the work of understanding, okay, where is tribal knowledge right now and where is it being used? Because I'm having a lot of fun having conversations with teams where it's like, okay, anytime this person says like, well, I've been here a long time, or I've been doing this for 20 years, or we've been making this product for 20 years. The next part of the sentence is almost certainly tribal knowledge, like of some sort. And people can be very protective of that knowledge. And so how you get it out and like turn it into usable context, I think is a challenge for everybody right now. But if you want AI to work for you, we've got to figure it out.
Yes, what I heard earlier today, Mateusz was telling me that what's happening now at Google and a few other big organizations, where employees are asked to give that knowledge from their brain available, and developers are asked to do that. Developers figured out that if they give all that knowledge from their head available to AI, they will be partially or fully obsolete. So what developers now started doing is giving wrong or misleading information to agents, so they can, at the end of the day, say, you see, I gave all the context to the agent and AI didn't deliver. That's why you need me.
Some pretty crazy studies coming out right now of individual contributors like kind of sabotaging like AI implementations. And that's a challenge underneath, which is like when leaders are doing this to say like, just use AI to get your job done. Like, it's not what's needed. And our whole goal with this series is to say, like, if you present it in a way that's like, hey, we're going to make this upgrade to create these unified views so that you can do bigger, better things and create more value for the business and for yourself. Like, by the way, if you learn how to do these things, like you've had great ideas for years, you haven't been able to do it because you've been busy sending emails and calls and updating systems. You don't have to do that anymore. And now these other ideas that you have, like, here's your AI tooling that can help you get them done for us, and keeping it in the context, like, there's so much opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think a lot will be how you frame it, how you try to implement that, how you try to do that mindset shift. And if you communicate in the right way, people will not feel threatened. And then they will not try to sabotage. They will see the opportunity for them. Of course, there will always be, different people have different opinions and different, points of view. It will always be the case. But I think how you think about all that and how you communicate internally will make your life way easier or way harder down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's see what we can do to help here. Because right away, it's like there's so much pain that people can align with in terms of data they can access. So not locked in data warehouses, not trapped in tribal knowledge. They might have some tribal knowledge, but I'm sure they've gotten annoyed by somebody else's tribal knowledge. And like whenever this person is gone, I can't help the customers, or we got to wait because IT says they're not available to do the thing, right? You have to find a way to like speak from this perspective and solve for the pain in a way that's not like just going to remove them from the equation. So what we've been hearing for a long time, we have tons of data, but nobody can find the insight they need when they need it. By the time our data team creates the report, the decision moment has passed. Every question requires a ticket to IT or analytics. We can't move fast. Context that should inform decisions is trapped in people's heads, and we don't have access to it. So decision delays, like amongst the rest of this list, probably I think it's one of the most detrimental like parts. One of the things that most commonly gets in the way of business growth, right? Is especially now. Like if you don't create an agile decision-making process, like you're just not to find a way to do that. Like you must find a way to make fast decisions when the market is moving as fast as it is, when AI is updating, when your people can add capabilities as fast as they want, when they can access AI, the way that they're allowed to. You can solve this, like if you want to. I would say it's hard to know where to start, and that's kind of the whole idea here. Is these unified views, this concept of how do we bring the context together so it can enable all of our people. You have to figure out what you want to be in that view, right?
Yeah. And every individual contributor or even higher to the top of the organization, I hope it will be seen as an opportunity. You can redefine, and you will need to redefine your value in the organization. So the sooner you start thinking about that, the better for you and for the organization.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a couple of projects I'm working on right now where there is the decision delay is so intense that it not only slows the project down, but I feel like it kind of makes people lose interest in a way that is really problematic, truly. Like I feel myself disengaging when like I'm like, well, it's gonna take weeks for that to happen. So like once I mean humans like to see progress, humans like to see success, we like to feel good, and when things are kind of stuck, it has a morale piece in addition to just the actual impact.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, for me, and this is why I could not exist inside of organizations. Like, there's nothing worse than having a meeting, everybody getting real excited about alignment on a solution to a problem that everybody's trying to solve, and then nothing happens, and you come back the next week, and it's the same conversation, right? Like, why aren't we making a decision? Why can't we move forward? A lot of these reasons are the ones that get in the way. It's like, oh, sales and marketing are in agreement, but now IT has to make it happen inside the CRM. And this is the sixth time we've done that. So we're not going to ask IT anymore, and we're going to create our own like shadow CRM system and spreadsheets and all this stuff. And stuff starts to silo. So some examples of what doesn't work. Built executive dashboards with all our key metrics. And then executives still ask everybody for custom reports because the dashboards look pretty, but they don't actually answer any questions. We implement BI platforms with, hey, come get it yourself. Like just whatever question you have, just come into the platform. Like we built it for you. Just come in. Requires training nobody has time for. And the only team that knows that system is the team that built it. And then AI-powered analytics platforms. Generates interesting insight that nobody acts on and is not anywhere near our normal workflows. Like, hey, Claude, can I get a nice one-page brief about topic XYZ? Yeah, here's a 15-pager. How's that? It's a real interesting brief here, right? Like, no matter how it comes in, and I love see, this is where, like you said, AI availability. So much of this is like two sides of the same coin. Like, do the humans have the availability to like capture the insight that AI is providing? Is a huge struggle right now.
Yeah. It was even in the past, I guess. It was just not about AI, but human availability of data. I've been using the phrase, yes, it's on the drive for probably 10 years now, or even more. Yes, it's there, but I don't know where to find it. If you find it, let me know, send me a link, but I know it's on drive. We stored it there. So the full context is there, but anyone use it? No.
Yep. That's what I've done a lot of content the last couple of years, but a lot of it has been like you said before the show started, you were asking about value creation protocol because it was on the top of your news feed or the list of the newsletter that I put out this week. And we were joking about like, yeah, it's on the list. That means it's not going to be consumed. And we both know at this point, like it's easier and faster and more valuable to just do some content together because we learn and we get to share with others. And it's just like, talk about maximizing like time to value while creating more value. That stuff, like that consumption, right? I think learning is in a tough spot. Like if you're not using the information as it's around you, as the context is around you, it's gone like immediately. And whether it's social and the social feed, like making you do that, it's either stop right now for 10 minutes so you can comment, or you save it with the hopes that you're gonna come back to it later and never do. Like, is the save function like in any social media or any of these platforms? Like, I would love to see like consumption rates like on the return. But all of this is a way, like, if you don't create the space, or you don't create if you don't create the space to like get help with understanding what the context of the moment is, like the moment will pass, right? And you're not going to be in a spot to make a decision. And I think like given the volume of thing, that's why this whole program is like, you have to use AI like to understand the insights available to you at a fast, like as fast as they are coming to you, as fast as they are being created in the market. And the more that we have to ask other people to do the processing, even if they're using AI, because they can go use AI, do that processing, and then they deliver you 15-page reports that you're not going to look at anyways. Like, or you have a 15-minute meeting where you're not present, for that meeting. And then you're like, oh, it's in the transcript. Just watch the recording later. You're not going to watch the recording.
Yeah.
Right? Unless it is right next to like the report and right next to a customer asking a question about that topic and right next to your next meeting with your team members that are also about that topic, right? This is the kind of stuff where if you can bring this stuff together, it starts to have a chance. Like that's why I do as much content as I do. It's not because I know people are going to consume it. It's that the feed is constantly moving. And if you don't show up every day, you can't be seen every day. Right? And if you're not seen every day right now, if you're not out there every day right now, the chances that you get seen inside of 1 week are, start to drop off a cliff. Maybe we can think of data in context in the same way, where it's always in front of you, in context, in your workflow. Am I thinking about that correctly, you think?
I mean, to me, where things are unclear is as every day so much new context is available, so much new thoughts, and as you said, agile, and make quick decisions and make a lot of decisions and a lot of iterations is, I feel, needed. It feels hard, at least for my brain, do so many iterations. But the context is changing, not even on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis or even hourly basis. How do you really keep that context as much up to date as possible so that it's not the same case as with CRM data, which doesn't get updated, and then you start doing siloed partial context? I think a lot about that. I don't yet have, or we don't yet have, I think, a good way of doing that, but at least we can think about it and have experiments how to do it.
Yeah, I think this context is always, like you said, context is always moving. Like one of my favorite things about using Claude is I'm constantly adding transcripts and then having Claude kind of update the entire project context, because each time I talk to a client, like each email I have with a client is going to shift the context slightly. And it's really nice, especially when I'm using a Claude cowork type space, that now that immediately gets shared. So, not everyone is in that environment, and sometimes we do still need visibility across teams, like you said. So I agree. And one thing that's always kind of interesting too is how many times context that seems separated will actually come together in ways that you might not think to tell the finance team about some marketing decision, but the downstream effects, I don't know. Those were the first two departments that came to my mind.
Yeah, I think so much of the work we do right now is getting people to ask for these moments. And there's some really good examples here. Imagine the customer org, can see usage patterns, health signals, and relationship context during the interaction. If you have this up on the screen and you're on a call, or somebody is asking for help, from other people on your team, and you can, give them contextual help instead of, oh, I think, yeah, let's go find that email somewhere in that thread. Let me just look in Outlook real quick. and it's like 5 minutes, and then you find it, and then the next week, like you're trying to find the same email, right? Operations org, AI powered pattern recognition and workflow optimization opportunities are everywhere. Like, man, Breeze is getting good. Breeze Assistant is getting really good if your data is in HubSpot. Commercial signals connected to revenue, health, and value accounting. So when you see that somebody is paying their bill, but then it's right next to a ticket where they're unhappy, right? Or it's right next to a feedback summary where they're super happy, right? The difference between those two customers is massive. And if you're just measuring, like, are they paying their bills or not, you're going to miss that. Strategic intelligence in natural language. Ask anything, get synthesized answers. Like, that's real life. I've seen leaders do this in real time. I do it in real time. Like, there's no better feeling. Like, when you can just ask the question exactly how you're thinking it. Klemen, I know still haven't unlocked voice yet for myself. But thinking through my fingers into the keyboard, I type it how I want to say it, and I don't have to curate how I'm asking to get answers that I'm looking for. And I think the hard part is where our leader is going to be in a place to just type out the question or say the question out loud. If you tell them to come into HubSpot and they're used to being in Slack all day, like, you've got to get that into Slack. Like, no matter how sexy it's going to look in HubSpot, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be there to ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think that's a really hard part for me, like, because I live in a HubSpot world, like, I'm like, but if you just were in HubSpot, it would all be right there. And I can hear myself for years, really, especially, so the Salesforce integration is probably the best example. For years, people have been like, well, my sales team's in Salesforce and they want to know what emails are being clicked. And I've just been like, well, if they were just in HubSpot, it would be a lot easier. And
famous last words.
That's just like that's a big ask, and that might not happen for many other reasons. Like, them being able to see the email is not the most important thing in the grand scheme. There's other reasons they're in Salesforce and so on. And then the same thing, like, sure, maybe we do wish our executives were in HubSpot, but if that's not their work stream, then it's not. And I am, now that it's getting much easier to break those silos, I don't know, that sounded very like
I mean, it's the truth, but we gotta help them ask to break it. Like, everybody makes assumptions right now of like, oh, that's in that system over here. Never been able to do that before. IT's going to get in the way. Like, all these things that we're used to, like, saying. And so much of AI is like, if you cannot experience it yourself, you will not believe what we're saying. So it's all about, like, show and tell. And even those moments where this is the challenge, if you have not stepped up from unified customer to unified revenue to unified context. Like, I remember Emerson McEwen showing me, like, I built this HubSpot MCP and I've got this chat right in Slack, and the CEO can just ask whatever reporting question he has and he gets it right in Slack. Like, Emerson, I think self-proclaimed RevOps wizard, like, that builds the MCP and is also in charge of the revenue organization to make sure all the data is great, so that a CEO can just ask a question from Slack and trust there's a lot that goes into that, right? But the first step is understanding that it it can happen, right? Because before that, I guarantee that executive not going into HubSpot where all the data is, which means we're sending reports via email, we're exporting things via spreadsheets. And then now there's a decision moment for the CEO in that moment to make a decision. If they don't need to like talk about it with the rest of the leadership team, and now all of that stuff passes by, right?
The only caveat here I would point to is, with that being allowed and enabled, so CEO can ask that reporting question at any given time when they want to, you need to ensure the data is up to date at any given time. Where in the past, where you were preparing a report once a month, before you prepare the report, you had 2 weeks of work and time to prepare the data so the report makes sense. Now, every day, the data should be reliable. With one of our customers, we just had a discussion. So with head of RevOps had it on the call, a lady from marketing did some reports with Claude. And that report looked really good. But then when they started digging into it, they realized, hey, it's not useful because the data is not the data you pulled into Claude to make a report is not good, so that we can trust the report, or that the report makes any sense. So you need to work on all bits and pieces, not just enable people to do things with AI on top of massive data and just hope they will spot the wrong pattern or wrong data in the report. They might or they might not. And you,
Right.
and you don't want a situation where a decision is made on misleading data. Then you lose the trust of, yes, AI can help us do something.
Yeah. And that's why it's so hard to think about like going across systems, like creating insight in HubSpot and then somehow sending it to Salesforce and having it be as impactful, like, right? Because we've talked about this with scoring a few times, where once you put that score right next to that deal information, right next to the company information, and right next to this context, all of a sudden everybody can just go, oh, that's not right. Oh, it's not right because of this reason. Let me fix that right now. Right. And that's why, like, if you get a agreement, which you will get, like, if you just present it this way, like, do you want unified context? Of course. Do you want a unified customer view? Of course. Do you want a unified revenue view? Okay. We've settled that. Now, can we have a conversation about what this looks like? Like, one of the easiest ways to get buy-in for a self-service order portal was like the tracking information and shipping information, like the things that people are sending back and forth via email on order requests. So you get the buy-in easily. But then to your point, Klemen, where the monthly flow of data, right? And it's like, oh, okay. So the shipping team has not been filling in ship date or tracking information until this part of the month when it's due for the monthly report. Are we ready to ask that team to make sure that information is in the system every day and up to date every day? Like, if we're making this decision to put all this information in front of other people because we know they want it and we know it'll be valuable, are we prepared to do the work of building that infrastructure required, which back in the day, last year, was harder than it is right now, where you can have AI and AI agents helping with this part, but are you going to ask them to do that is the question that we're trying to help you say a resounding yes to right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, now I really believe we're in a position where we can cross those obstacles and build those bridges. We in the past could only say, yes, we'll build the bridge when we get there. Now you can actually build those bridges to be even able to have data in sync every day. So then you can build on top of that with all the AI.
Yeah. But just be careful. Like, don't shoot for the moon right away. Right. If we can't have our internal teams like consuming the insights and the intelligence, don't be selling a new kind of AI like curated report to your customers as another value prop, right? Which is this multiplication down here. Because there's honestly no faster way to lose trust right now than to put an AI generated piece of anything in front of a customer or prospect. Like, they are on high alert and making assumptions that it is AI based, right? And if you haven't been able to get your team on board, like, can we ask simple questions that we should be able to get answers to without going to ask Casey or Klemen or the admin or whoever, right? Starting there. But not to mention, like, those kinds of calls, those kinds of exchanges are what wear teams down. And they start making decisions like, oh, I just asked Casey a couple hours ago. Like, I don't want to bother her again, even though she's the only person that can answer this question right now. Right? Like, those are the moments where teams can have these conversations out loud, use the transcript, and start getting help from AI immediately. And then you start to build on top of that, right? There's just there is a playbook behind this too. I don't know if we'll do another series about it, but we are looking to help anybody that will like receive it. This is a big part. Like, we do the first steps to get to here. Like, we've got to overcome decision delay, like an indecision inside of orgs. You just can't afford it right now. And it takes some work to get there, especially in legacy organizations. But there is a path. And I guess that's what we're up to here every Tuesday is trying to help folks with that. Any passing thoughts or final thoughts? Should we dive deeper into this? Do we need to help people understand what context even looks like for their organizations? Where should we go from here?
I do think what context is almost the most important question right now. And it's interesting how to see and think about how it will evolve, and even like how my own work streams have evolved over the last year. To think about, instead of going to an email, I now will almost always open up my Claude chats and be like, hey, I vaguely remember somebody mentioning this at some point. Do you remember that? And to be honest, that works better. Like, it does. Because sometimes it's not going to find it. Like, sometimes you're going to just ask it wrong. And like the same, like any human, like if you asked me about my basement and you called it my living room, and I'd be like, what are you talking? Like, I don't know, just little things like that. But it's just going to get better. And I think it's interesting to see what context we prioritize. as we get there.
I'm in for more discussions on context for sure.
Indeed. Because there's never been more context available to you folks if you just ask for it. And hopefully, we can help you do that. So we'll keep at it. Next week, I think we're all here next week since it's Tuesday. So until then, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week.
Have a